Hi everyone, welcome back. Eugene here, and today I have a real treat for everyone. Today I'm sitting here with world-renowned leadership expert and coach, Larry Kangas. Larry is the CEO of Leadership Potentials, and he is an excellent resource for business owners, supervisors, anyone really who leads individuals in the workplace and probably outside of the workplace. He's an excellent resource, and I'm really just excited to pick his brain today. So welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Eugene. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I guess let's just dig right into it and get into some of the meaty stuff. What are some of the common misconceptions? I've heard you talk about this and I've been really impressed. What are some of the most common misconceptions people have about leadership?
The biggest one I see and most common is that most people assume that being a boss, somebody who has a title, status, and power, automatically makes them a leader. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. Leaders are not born. You're not born, we have a term, he's a born leader. Well, we may have a charisma about us or something, but we don't have the skills. Leadership requires studying and practicing like any profession does.
Okay.
If I'm an accountant, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to learn how to do all the requirements an accountant does to be a good accountant. If I'm a welder, same thing, I'm going to go to trade school. But it's funny, when we get into a leadership position, how much schooling do we get in leadership?
Yeah, I think most people never get any formal training. They're good at their job, so they just get promoted, or they're effective business people. They're good at their trade, and then they just hire people underneath them, right?
That tends to be the what it is like I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. Matter of fact, I do believe that the future of employment in America is going to be entrepreneurship as more and more organizations begin to outsource different aspects of business. And the opportunity is in starting your own company and literally going back to work for the company you worked with as an outsourced entrepreneur.
Sure.
Now, with that, there comes an entirely different philosophy of what entrepreneur was just 5 years ago. To be successful today, an entrepreneur has to think in terms of the term I use, which is collaborative entrepreneurialism.
Okay, explain that.
What that simply means is that being in charge of the business guarantees you nothing. You may be good at what you do, but without the help and input and support of the people around you, you're going to flounder. It takes a group of people to make something work.
Okay.
And so collaborative entrepreneurialism is either going to be applied to the people that I put around me as part of my little organization, or it's going to be with another entrepreneur, where we come together to deliver a unique service or product. And as leaders, what a leader has to be able to do is be driven by the passion and interest of what they're doing, but at the same time, be focused on two things. First is be constantly developing themselves. Because if you don't develop yourself, you're going to be stuck where you are. And as business grows and matures, and you're not emotionally able to handle it, then you're going to be in a position of struggle. And the second is to be constantly focused on your sphere of influence. If you don't look to bring the best out of people, then what you better be happy with is what you get. And I see this constantly, where leaders are always telling people what to do, especially in small mid-sized businesses. A leader says, do this, do this, do this. Well, they're not being leaders. What they're doing is being bosses. And because they don't help the person. They don't give the parameters of what they're looking for. They don't help them in the skill development to do it. They don't roll up their sleeves and work with them. What they say is just do it. And the input and conversation is one way. Everything is coming down, nothing is coming up. And what is coming up is usually taken as offense or a bad attitude by the leader because they don't want to hear it. Does that make sense?
We always hate the complainers in the office, right?
Well, when somebody comes up with a different or better idea, it doesn't mean they're complaining, they're trying to help. And leading is fundamentally helping people. And if you're not engaged mentally and emotionally to help people, both my customer and my employee, it's a position of constantly serving versus being served. Now, the old model was just the opposite. When we had the industrial age, the leader sat at top and everybody answered to the leader. But today we're in a knowledge-based economy, and the value, if you think about it, is not your product, okay, but the knowledge you bring to help use the product to make your life better.
Interesting.
So the knowledge-based economy has shifted literally everything, because every time an economy changes, everybody goes back to zero. And we've gone back to zero for the last 20 years. We've been trying to figure this out.
Sure.
But after 100 years of the industrial age model and the information age economy changed somewhat, but we never adapted. We still haven't adapted to the leadership of being a servant leader versus being a served leader.
Well, let's talk about the distinction. And I guess the first question I would ask, and if I were watching this, I would want to know, Larry, how do I tell if I'm a good leader or if I'm not a good leader? How do I figure that out? What's the, what are 2-3 things I can look at in my organization to make that distinction?
First of all, if you're a bad leader, nobody will tell you.
Right.
They're all afraid of you.
Sure.
By nature is if you're a bad leader, it's like, I ain't saying nothing.
But at the same point, if you're a good leader, nobody will tell you you're a bad leader, right?
Well, if you're a good leader, there's no need to tell you you're a bad
Right.
leader, okay? Because people will respect you and want to follow you.
So in both cases, nobody will tell you.
Nobody will tell you.
So how do you tell?
Well, that's where the challenge comes in. And that's where my organization, we help people see themselves. We hold up the mirror. We have a product that we call the Leadership and Culture Diagnostic,
Okay.
which helps. It's literally an MRI, okay? Let's look at it this way. We can go in, and after all doing this for so many years, I could sit in an organization for 30 minutes, listen, talk to a few people, and get a good feel for am I dealing with a leader, okay, or am I dealing with a boss? Am I dealing with somebody who is humble and wants to make a difference, or am I dealing with an egomaniac? It's not hard to figure that out, especially when you're trained. So we know that. But I can't tell you that. I mean, I can't walk up to you and say, I've been here 30 minutes and I can tell you, you're an egomaniac. I mean, what's that?
Right, that's not gonna accomplish very
all
much,
you're going
right?
to do is stop listening to me.
Right.
And so what we developed was a product that we call a Leadership and Culture Diagnostic. And it's basically a 40-question instrument that measures and gives it's like taking a PET scan. You literally see everything in your organization, and you see how you see it, your leadership group sees it, how your middle management sees it, and how your employees see every question.
Okay.
And they're all broken down by factor so that we can sit down and I'll give you a clear picture of your organization that if you want to be honest with you, so you don't have to be honest with me. I keep telling people, you can say anything you want to me because words, it's what I see that counts. And when I have this, I've never once, and done hundreds of these, never once has somebody said to me, that ain't us. Matter of fact, they went, wow, you know us better than we know ourselves.
That's great.
That is one of the tools. That's probably the only tool that can get the conversation started of leadership competence.
Interesting. So when somebody's looking at their own organization and they kind of try to understand whether or not they have good leaders in their organization, whether they have bad leaders in their organization, obviously they can use some tools. But inherently, when they're trying to develop themselves as a leader, if everyone kind of agrees that, look, on a regular basis, we need some leadership coaching, some leadership training, but at the same time, we also want to develop ourselves. What are the kinds of things that someone should do on a regular basis to kind of do kind of an introspective analysis to better their leadership skills?
The thing that's most underutilized is coaching. Leadership coaching, okay, on a one-on-one basis is fairly inexpensive. The return on investment is huge. But what it does is if you get the right person who isn't there to make you happy, but they're there to be brutally honest with you, you can begin to see the areas of deficiency, whether it's in the skill level or the knowledge level, or whether it's you. Let's face it, there are two elements. Again, I strongly believe there are two elements to leadership. There's the ability and skill, and then there is the person themselves.
Okay.
If the person themselves is ego-driven and insecure, they will never be a good leader, because the ego will always drive them into staying in a position of structural power. And that's the most important thing. And that forces people that believe that they have to be control freaks. And they want everything to come through them. And in today's world, this is absolutely true, if you hire good people, why in the world would you want to tell them what to do? If you got good people who know what to do.
Who you trust, yeah.
Yeah. Their job is to tell me what we're going to do. Their job is to help me. They would give us input to growth. Now, if I don't want to hear it because I'm in charge, then what I'm doing is taking good people and setting them up for failure.
Yeah, and you're really stunting their potential.
Exactly.
And you're demotivating them. You're making them less excited about coming to work.
And Eugene, in today's economy, you could probably get away with that for a longer period. But when things change, I will tell you for a fact, your best people will leave you.
Yeah.
And all you're left with are the ones who can't find jobs elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, you want people who feel like they're making a difference at work.
Absolutely.
And so those people need to be led, like you said, not just micromanaged.
Empowered.
So let's talk about that. Micromanagement versus leadership. What's your opinion on micromanagement? A lot of the business owners watching this, right? They're going to be perfectionists. And if they're perfectionists, they're going to want to make sure that they have that they have a good feel for everything that's going on in their organization, and sometimes we call them micromanagers. Okay, so Larry, let's talk a little bit more about that, because a lot of the business owners who are watching this, they are individuals who constantly strive for perfection throughout their, they want to achieve the best possible outcome in their business. They're always trying to achieve the best possible outcome for their customers, for their clients. So sometimes when they try to achieve the whole idea of perfection, they're trying to micromanage people into doing it their way, because they're the ones who started it. They're the ones who know how to do it right. So and they end up in a position where they feel like no one can do it as well as them. So let's talk about what differentiates a micromanager from a leader, and how you kind of overcome that challenge as a business owner, that no one can really do it better than you.
Well, first of all, the first fallacy it was perfection. There is no perfection. All right? You will never have the perfect day. As human beings, we're flawed. We will make mistakes. We will say things wrong, or somebody misinterprets us. As I've always said, it doesn't matter what I say, it matters what you hear, right? So micromanaging, when I see that, and when every time I've experienced it over almost 40 years now, what it tells me is that I have a leader who doesn't know how to lead. Leadership is about helping people being better, bringing the best out of them. And when you're micromanaging, what you're really doing is suffocating them. What you're doing is obsessing over detail. And when that happens, the person stops thinking and stops feeling empowered, and they become very compliant. Now, when somebody hits compliant, you're in deep trouble. Because what they're going to do is exactly what you ask them. No more, no less. And then after time, the compliance turns into apathy, where they won't even do what you tell them. So micromanagement is a slippery slope to failure, because it doesn't work. If you want people to be better, teach. Don't micromanage. Let mistakes happen, because it's through the mistakes that we learn. Humans, adults, we're interesting as adults, is that we believe we know a lot. And once we believe we know a lot, we tend to stop listening and learning. If you want to be a good teacher, the little secret is this. To be a good teacher, you got to be a better student, because it's a constant learning. Because things are never the same. Things are constantly changing. So as a leader, you have to be open to learning. You have to be humble.
And that's learning from your staff. Maybe that's learning from your marketplace. Maybe that's learning from your competitors. Maybe that's learning from your coaches.
There's not a maybe there. That's all of it.
Yeah.
Because every time there's feedback, there's information. And I don't know a person that I've met in my lifetime that didn't have blind spots, including me. We all have blind spots. And if we're not willing to listen to the information coming back to us, then we'll never know what those blind spots are. Now, our instincts are going to say, if we hear something that's in our blind spot, we're going to initially get defensive. That's how we will react. Now, if that defensiveness shuts down communication, then we're stuck. We're stuck where we are. We have to be willing to listen and learn. None of us are perfect. I mean, I know what I know. I don't know anymore. And if I go beyond that and start to make things up, then I'm not doing my job.
Sure.
I mean, I learn when I'm working one-on-one with a leader. We have conversations. I desperately want to help them be better, but I learn from them. Every client I've ever worked with, I've had takeaways that I said, I haven't looked at it that way. And I've learned over time, once I stopped trying to be the quote boss leader, and I learned that I really wanted to help, then I stopped being a know-it-all and hopefully started to ask questions. What do you mean by that? How does that work? Where I got an understanding. And it's through the understanding that I can recognize things to help. But I would never, ever, in my role, tell people what to do. My job is to get you thinking and to get you looking at things in different, and then have the discussion of what process we use to get there.
You know, Larry, it's been a great discussion, and I think that our audience has gotten a lot out of this. I guess as we wrap it up, my question to you is, you know, if you had to give one core piece of advice to everyone out there who's in a position of leadership, right, who's in a position of management, what's that one core piece of advice that you'd want to resonate with them?
The most important thing as a leader, especially in today's world, is understand that you will accomplish more without using your structural power. You'll accomplish more by influencing people and having them want to work with you. Because if you are pushing everything down and suffocating people, they're gonna leave you. But if you are listening and bringing people along with you and building the organization and deploying your resources correctly, then you'll have energy and a dynamic that's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah. Larry Kangas, everybody, world-renowned leadership coach, leadership trainer. We've been excited to have him with us today. If you have any questions, comments, if you'd like to give Larry a shout, we'll post some information about how people can reach you below this video. And of course, I will look forward to seeing Larry in future videos.